I was on top of the world that day. I had just landed my biggest client yet, a Fortune 500 company, my tiny consulting business, something I'd built from scratch while juggling a full-time job and a dozen sleepless nights, had finally broken through. I was glowing, buzzing with excitement, ready to celebrate with the one person I thought would be proud of me. Instead, he broke up with me. We were at our favorite Italian place, the kind where they know your order before you even sit down. I'd barely finished telling him the news, expecting a big smile, maybe a toast, but he just stirred his wine slowly, not looking at me. Then he said it. "I think you're just too ambitious for me." At first I laughed. I thought it was a joke, but he kept going. "You're always working. You talk more about clients than about us. I feel like I'm just part of your to-do list." I stared at him, trying to process what he was saying. I'd been building something, not just for myself, but for us. I thought he understood that. "Some women," he added, "don't need to chase everything. Some of us just want something simple." He said it so calmly, like he wasn't ending a relationship, just adjusting a dinner order. I sat there, stunned, blinking hard to keep the tears back. "I'm not asking you to stop," he added, like it was a favor. "I just don't think I fit into your world." That was it. No fight, no discussion, just a quiet, confident goodbye from someone who thought he was above it all. I left the restaurant without saying much. My heart felt heavy, but underneath the pain, something else started to burn. Something sharp, determined. If he thought I was too ambitious, fine. I'd show him exactly what that looked like. I didn't cry that night. I made a plan. And now, fast forward to this month, his company, the one he ditched me to focus on, is cutting me 5-figure checks just to clean up the mess he made trying to scale. Guess ambition isn't such a bad thing after all. When we first started dating, he was my biggest cheerleader. He used to bring me coffee during late-night work sessions and tell his friends how proud he was of me for chasing something on my own. He said he loved how driven I was, how I never gave up on anything. Back then, he said it made me different, in a good way. But slowly, that changed. At first, it was little comments. If I worked late, he'd joke, "Don't forget you have a boyfriend." When I turned down plans to meet a deadline, he'd roll his eyes and say, "You act like you're running a Fortune 500 already." He'd laugh when he said it, but there was something bitter underneath. He started calling my business your little side thing. Even after I started getting real clients and money was coming in, once I showed him my new logo. I was excited. I'd spent days perfecting it. He barely glanced at it and said, "Cool, still just a hobby though, right?" I tried to brush it off, thinking he was just stressed or having a bad day, but it didn't stop. The more I grew, the smaller he seemed to want to make me feel. Then came the fight that changed everything. I'd just signed my first major client, a startup that had raised millions. I came home practically bouncing with excitement. When I told him, he looked up from his phone and said, "You know, you're kind of changing lately. You're always talking about business, stats, strategy. It's like you're trying too hard to prove something." That one hit me hard. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just proud of what I was building. But to him, my success looked like some sort of performance, like I was showing off. He didn't even say congratulations. The final straw came a few weeks later. We were at the same Italian restaurant. I had a presentation the next morning and was a little distracted, but I was still trying to enjoy dinner. Then, out of nowhere, he dropped it. "I think we want different things. You're chasing success like it's oxygen. I want something calmer. You're just too ambitious for me." He said it like he was doing me a favor, like I should thank him for being honest. I didn't cry. Not then. I just stared at him for a moment, stood up, and walked out. I didn't look back. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. When I closed that door behind me, I wasn't just walking away from him. I was walking away from anyone who ever tried to make me feel small for dreaming big. I never went back. After the breakup, everything hit me at once. At first I tried to act like I was fine. I buried myself in work, pretending it didn't hurt. But the silence in my apartment felt heavier at night. The self-doubt crept in slowly. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was too much. Maybe I was fooling myself thinking I could run a business on my own. I started questioning everything. My pricing, my brand, my skills. I'd stare at emails, frozen, afraid to reply. I missed deadlines. One client dropped me. My confidence was slipping fast and I could feel it. For the first time, I thought about quitting, but I didn't. One morning, after a night of crying and very little sleep, I forced myself to open my laptop and do one thing, just one. I rewrote my website bio, then I redid my service page. That one small action turned into a full rebrand over the next few weeks. I stopped trying to look like a freelancer and started positioning myself as a business consultant. I focused on what I was actually good at, turning chaotic growth into clean systems. I shifted my services to target other businesses, not just individual clients. Then I did something that changed everything. I reached out to a woman I followed on LinkedIn who'd built a multi-million-dollar agency. I told her I admired her and asked for 15 minutes of her time. She gave me 30, and she became my mentor. With her guidance, I started landing better clients. I raised my rates. I worked harder than ever, but this time it felt different. I wasn't chasing success to prove anything to anyone. I was building something solid, something real. And then one afternoon, an email landed in my inbox. The subject line was simple: consulting inquiry, growth strategy needed. I opened it, scanned the details, and stopped cold when I saw the company name. It was his company. For a second, I didn't breathe. I read it again to be sure. His company, reaching out to me. I leaned back in my chair, heart racing, not from fear, but from something else entirely. It was starting to come full circle. The email came from a mid-level operations manager. She had no idea who I was beyond my business website and a few glowing testimonials. The message was polite and professional, asking if I'd be open to discussing a consulting opportunity for a growing tech company that was scaling too fast and breaking things along the way. Sounded familiar. I clicked on the company link and felt my stomach flip. His company. The same company he left me for. The one he used to brag about while acting like mine was just a cute little side project. For a moment, I hovered over the delete button. I didn't need this. I had other clients. Why walk into a room where I'd have to see his face again? But then curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see what kind of mess he'd made. So I said yes to a discovery call. The call was quick and smooth. The manager explained that they were scaling fast, but operations were all over the place. Disorganized systems, bad hiring, customer churn. I listened, asked sharp questions, took notes like I would with any other client. She was impressed and invited me to pitch a strategy proposal in person. I dressed sharp for the meeting, not flashy, just confident. I walked into the glass conference room, laptop in hand, calm and ready. And then he walked in. He froze. He hadn't seen the invite list clearly. He stopped in the doorway, blinking like he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. I stayed seated, gave him the same polite smile I'd give any other executive. "Hi," I said simply. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, then shut it again. The manager, unaware of the tension, went right into introductions. "This is our founder. He'll be joining the strategy meeting." He sat down across from me slowly. I began presenting. I kept it all business. Slides, insights, recommendations. I didn't flinch. I could feel him watching me the entire time, but I didn't look at him once. After I wrapped up, the manager was thrilled. "This is exactly the clarity we've been needing," she said. They asked if I'd be open to taking on the contract. I smiled, packed my laptop and stood. "I'll let you know if I decide to accept," I said. Then I walked out, calm and cool. I accepted the job, but only on my terms. My rates? Higher than their usual consultants. I made it a short-term contract with clear deliverables, and I asked for full creative control over my process. They didn't even blink. They needed results. And fast. I could tell from the way they rushed the paperwork. They were desperate. The first day on site, I walked in like I owned the place. Not because I wanted to be dramatic, but because I'd earned it. I had spent the last 2 years fixing exactly these kinds of problems, and now I was being paid well to fix his. He tried to act like none of it bothered him, smiling too much, making small jokes in meetings that didn't land, but the tension was all over his face, especially when I spoke and the board listened. I broke down their operations and outlined a clear roadmap within a week. The board called it the first solid direction they'd had in months. During presentations, they asked me the questions. He was just in the room, sometimes not even that. I saw the way he shifted in his seat, jaw tight, hands clasped too hard. He didn't interrupt, but he didn't smile either. It was subtle, but it was a shift. He used to speak over me. Now he couldn't even keep up. One of the senior VPs pulled me aside after a meeting. He was curious. "Hey, just wondering, how do you know our founder? You two seem familiar." I gave him a small smile. We've crossed paths, I said. A long time ago. The VP chuckled, like he thought I meant a networking event or conference. I didn't correct him. Later that day, I walked past my ex in the hallway. He looked like he wanted to say something, maybe start a conversation. I didn't slow down, just kept walking. He wasn't my problem anymore. I was here to clean up the mess he couldn't fix, and get paid well to do it. It was during a coffee break that I heard him talking. I had stepped into the small kitchen near the meeting room, just waiting for the machine to finish pouring. His voice carried through the open door of a nearby office. He didn't know I was there. I mean, she's good at what she does, sure, he was saying. But she's difficult, always has to have things her way. Not exactly a team player. I stood still, staring at the coffee cup filling slowly in front of me. He was talking to another department head, someone I'd barely met. She's too sharp, he continued. Too aggressive, makes people nervous. I didn't say anything. I just picked up my cup and walked away, quiet and calm. That day, I decided I wouldn't defend myself with words. I'd let my work do it for me. I kept showing up, focused and prepared. I listened more than I talked. When I spoke, it was to offer solutions, not opinions. Slowly, people started coming to me for advice. A few of the execs invited me to sit in on their department meeting. They trusted my ideas. I gave clear, practical strategies and followed through on every single one. There was one project in particular that was falling apart, a customer success revamp that had stalled out for months. I offered a simple framework to clean it up, and within 2 weeks, we saw improvement in both response time and customer feedback scores. The board noticed. So did HR. One afternoon, I got an email asking if I'd consider extending my contract. They offered more time, more freedom, and a raise. A good one. I didn't even have to ask. I knew he saw it too. During meetings now, he mostly stayed quiet. If he disagreed with me, he kept it to himself. The room wasn't his anymore. The others had started looking to me for direction. His complaints didn't stick. They just made him look insecure. And that was the difference between us. He thought power came from controlling people. I knew it came from delivering results. I didn't have to argue or defend myself. I just had to keep doing what I was best at. And the company was starting to realize it too. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. He started snapping at people in meetings, cutting them off, raising his voice over small things. The calm, charming founder act was slipping fast. People noticed. His team avoided eye contact when he spoke. A few started messaging me privately, asking for help or second opinions. One afternoon, an intern stopped me in the hallway. She looked nervous. I probably shouldn't say this, she whispered. But there's talk about him, about the money. I raised an eyebrow. What kind of talk? She leaned closer. Someone's auditing internal expenses. They think he's been moving company funds around for personal stuff. I thanked her and walked away, trying to keep my face neutral. Inside, my thoughts were racing. I opened an old email folder that night, one I hadn't looked at in years. There were messages from him, back when we were still together, where he laughed at my business goals, said things like, "You're playing CEO, it's cute," or "Nobody's going to pay you real money for that." I also had old screenshots of texts. One, I remembered clearly, was him joking to a friend. "She wants to be the next big thing. Too bad she'll burn out before 30. I didn't send them to anyone. I just saved them, quietly, just in case. A week later, during a high-level review meeting, one of the board members pulled me aside. He was polite, but direct. "We're reevaluating some of the leadership structure," he said. "Off the record, what's your honest opinion of him?" I paused for a second. Then I smiled slightly. "He has vision," I said, "but he struggles with execution, and he doesn't handle pressure well." The board member nodded slowly. He didn't need more than that. The rest was already playing out. I didn't need revenge. He was doing it to himself. It happened quietly, like most things in business do. One morning, his name was taken off the leadership board. A short company-wide email followed. He was stepping down to pursue new opportunities. No details, no goodbye post, no fanfare, but everyone knew. The board had seen enough. The numbers didn't lie, and neither did the internal reports. His decisions were costing them. His attitude wasn't helping. And now, with me around, they had someone who could actually clean things up. A few days later, HR reached out again. They offered me a permanent executive role, full-time, benefits, stock options, the whole package. I thought about it. It was tempting, But I'd built my business to be free, not tied to any one company. So I turned it down politely. Instead, I countered with a consulting deal. Part-time, high impact, triple my original rate. They accepted without blinking. Now I was getting paid more than ever before to fix the very company my ex thought I could never match. The same one he said I wasn't cut out for, the one he left me for. The irony didn't just sting, it glowed. One afternoon, during the leadership transition, I walked into his old office. The door was open, papers cleared off the desk, everything stripped down. I looked around, same desk, same view, same leather chair he used to brag about. I walked over and sat down. It was quiet, peaceful, just the faint hum of the city outside the window. I leaned back, let the chair tilt slightly, closed my eyes for a second. This was the same chair where he once made decisions, ignored advice, and looked down on people who didn't fit his picture of success. And now I was the one they trusted. I was the one they listened to. I was the one fixing the mess he left behind. I laughed, softly, but from deep in my chest. Not bitter, just amused. I stood up and left the chair spinning behind me. I had no desire to take his place. I had already built something better. The office was perfect. Wide windows, clean white walls, and just enough space to grow. But the best part? The view. From my desk, I could see the top floor of his old company's building, just a few blocks away. I didn't plan it that way. It just happened. Still, I couldn't help but smile every time I looked out. This was my dream office. And now, it was mine. Business was booming. The team had grown. We had new clients, bigger contracts, and a waiting list. Word was spreading. One morning, my inbox lit up with a subject line I'd never forget. Forbes feature interview request. They called me a rising star in strategic consultancy, someone who built something out of nothing and was now reshaping how companies scale smart. The article went live. It blew up. Old classmates, past clients, random people I hadn't talked to in years were suddenly reaching out. And then, he did too. The message came late one night. Just one line. Congrats. I guess you really made it. No apology. No explanation. Just that. I stared at it for a second. Then I closed the app. No reply. I left him on red. He didn't get to be part of this chapter. A few minutes later, my assistant knocked gently on the door and walked in, holding a stack of folders. 3 new client briefs just came in, she said, grinning. Want me to block off time tomorrow? I glanced at the folders, then at the city outside my window. You ready? She asked. I smiled, reaching for the first file. Born ready, I said. People used to say ambitious, like it was a bad word, especially for women. When he called me too ambitious, he meant it as a flaw, like I was broken somehow for wanting more than just comfort or routine. Back then, I almost believed him. I almost let that word crush me, but now I know better. Ambition isn't about stepping on others. It's not about being cold or heartless or impossible to work with. For me, it means being relentless, focused, willing to try again and again, even when no one believes in you. Especially then, ambition saved me. It pulled me through heartbreak, failure, and fear. It gave me something to build when everything else fell apart. And in the end, it gave me a life I'm proud of. Now, younger women come to me for advice. Some just starting out. Some stuck in places they've outgrown. They ask how I got here. They ask how I kept going when it felt impossible. I tell them the truth. I tell them it's okay to want more, to take up space, to raise your voice, to ask for better pay, to build your own table when none are offered. Because ambition isn't selfish, it's survival, it's courage. That's why I started a mentorship network, a space where women can share their wins, their mistakes, their strategy. No gatekeeping, no sugarcoating, just real tools, real stories, and real support. We meet monthly, sometimes in person, sometimes online. We talk about everything: negotiating, branding, burnout, boundaries. And every time, I see the same spark in their eyes that I once had, that same fire. They're not too ambitious, they're just getting started. Sometimes I think about how far I've come, from that small apartment, that heartbreak, those sleepless nights. And now, I run my own company, I choose my clients, I lead a team that believes in the work and the mission. I built this, and if someone still wants to call me too ambitious, well, let them. Because if ambition makes some men uncomfortable, good. Hi besties, thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe.